My life has been a masterfully handwritten, self published body of work, plagiarized by rejection. But isn't it crazy how my current life looks nothing like the short stories and passages my wounds wanted me to believe? My name is Tasha, and this is God, You Play Too Much, the podcast.
Have you ever stared at your phone after sending a very important text? You've poured your heart out into this text. Okay, you've typed and deleted, and you finally sent the message with all of your thoughts, your fears, your feelings, all of your emotions wrapped into it. And then you're just staring at the phone, waiting for the reply, right? But you don't get an immediate reply. Instead, you get a red receipt and radio silence. Well, imagine that feeling, but let's make God the recipient of that text. There's many times in our prayer lives when we are sending text messages, we are sending up prayers. Praying from our essence, okay? Praying with snot and ugly cries. And it seems as though God is silent. You may be praying about your career, your relationship, your purpose, but it never feels good to feel like you've been left unread. Well, in today's episode, we're going to talk about exactly that. My name is Tasha, your prophetic homegirl, and welcome to God You Play Too Much, the podcast. Um, let's dive into it. I want to start this episode off with a very real story. My story. I remember back in like 2018 ish, I was praying prayers of desperation to God. Where is my husband? You know, this is a couple of years after after my divorce. Mind you, if you have listened to the other podcasts, if you have watched the other podcasts, then you know I'm talking about, know what I'm saying, that my divorce resulted in my homelessness, right? And so I was on this journey of just me and God, me and God, me and God. And so when it came time for me to date, I was like, okay, God, we've done the work. Okay. We've been fasting and praying and crying and snotting and coming out of agreements and all the things, right? Now I'm ready for my husband. Okay, I am whole. This is me talking to God. I am whole and I am ready for my husband. During this time, my grandmother, my ginger, would call me a serial dater. She said, baby, you don't even chew them up and spit them out. You just taste them and spit them out. I had grown so weary of the dating scene. I was frustrated. I felt like I'm a wife. When you meet me, I'm a wife. And because of that, a lot of the guys that I dated, they didn't know how to handle me. They didn't know what to do with me, right? I wasn't asking for steak 48 dinners, right? I wasn't asking for steak 48 dinners, okay? I wasn't asking for shopping sprees. I was asking for their thoughts. I was asking for um their intentions, you know? And it seemed like I just couldn't get what I was looking for. And so I remember vividly on my way to work one day, I was working at the bridal store. I'm gripping the steering wheel, okay? And I am ugly crying. And cuz I was lonely. Father, where is my husband? Okay? What are we waiting on? What else do I need to do in order for him to come? I feel like I've been chasing you. It's been me and you. My focus has been you. My focus has been me. Where you at? I mean, bawling, bawling. And I went about my day, dried my face and, you know, went on about my day. I remember in that moment feeling like, why aren't you listening to me? Do you hear me, sir? Is this mic on? I remember feeling like unseen, unheard. I remember thinking that maybe my request was trivial and that's why he wasn't answering. I mean, I had all kind of thoughts in my mind. Now, I want to say this, the shift didn't happen because all of a sudden I got my husband's name on some billboard. The shift happened when this older lady told me, Tasha, you are waiting for a text back, but God is writing a whole novel. Let's let that sink in. That's not the answer that we want to hear when we feel like we are praying urgent prayers, sir. There is a urgent need. I am hurting. Oh, But she was so right. Here I am looking at a blank page, seemingly, from my perspective. And Yahweh is writing an entire love story about me and my husband. You know, the same older lady challenged me to stop sending up prayer requests, stop sending up these desperate pleas, and focus on the replies that he was sending me because he was replying. Now, whether or not I was discerning, it was his reply, he was replying. It's just like if my son sends me a text message and he sends an emoji. Now, my son would say, "Well, Mom, I said what I said." He would expect me to be able to interpret that one emoji as a full sentence. And I would submit to you that that is how God replies to us. That there could be one sign, one moment, one something that if we don't know how to discern and decipher his replies, we'll overlook and accuse him of not answering. We have to interpret and decode God's replies sometimes. It's not going to be some long paragraph written out in the sky. That's too obvious, right? That's too obvious. This is one of a few places in my life where I had to learn that his silence isn't punishment. His silence isn't absence, but rather a space for my trust to grow, a space for me to work out this faith muscle. Let me ask you now, as a viewer, if you think about what your life right now, what areas do you feel like God is leaving you on red? And once you get that thing in your mind, is it that God has left you unread, or you've already decided what his answer is going to be? Is it that God is replying, but it's just not in the way that you expected? I want you to think about that situation. And I want you to ask yourself, if God is indeed replying, but just not in the way that I expected, what is it that he could be trying to show you, right, in this lesson? Because that's what it is. Maybe it's a lesson on patience. Maybe it's a lesson on self-control. Maybe you're in a place in your walk where he's requiring more faith from you. In what area is he growing you? Because he is indeed growing you. This isn't me trying to teach you a lesson, okay? This is just your prophetic homegirl sharing her story and her experiences of when I was in a desperate place. And it wasn't the dramatics and the snot. It wasn't the dramatics and the snot of my prayers that gave me breakthrough. Figuring this out by yourself is hard. And I don't want to say impossible, but it's definitely hard. If we can remember that everything that we go through in every moment of our life, every season of our life, God is weaving together a beautiful work of art, right? There is no part of our life that are leftovers or crumbs. And so if you feel that you're in a desperate situation and God is silent, I submit to you that life is teaching you. The Father is not going to get off the throne and come hold your hand in this earth and teach you lessons. Life is the teacher. And the more desperate you get, the more frustrated you get, the deeper your faith is rooted. There is something about, the roots of an oak tree, how it creates systems in the ground to survive, to pull the nutrients it needs from the soil. You understand, to continue to grow, to continue to produce. Your faith is just like those roots. Come what may, you have to have a resolve that even though I may not be hearing an audible answer right now or getting this big billboard or vision in the sky, that heaven is still working on my behalf, right? So now the question is, what do these replies look like when we feel that he's being silent? I would say one reply is the amount of peace and comfort you have after you lay it all at the altar, after you have snotted, cried, after you've sweated. Have you ever cried? Have you ever cried so hard that you start to sweat? You know, there is a calm, there is a peace that comes over you when you lay it at the altar. Remember that God will draw us into dry places. He will draw us into deserts, into valleys to meet him there. It is in your moment of desperation where faith is activated, where faith is increased. This faith walk is a cycle. Oh my God, I love you. I trust you. I give you everything. To where are you? Are you serious? Do you even love me? Back to, oh my God, you're so good. I thank you for working everything out for my good. I thank you for giving me beauty for ashes. But in order to get that beauty, there must be ashes. I don't know if y'all caught that. So I want to go back to the story of me and my husband. So after crying this, prayer in my car, I was actually so angry. I was so frustrated that I went to delete my dating apps. And so I went to Tinder and I was going to go sign out and to delete the app. And lo and behold, I get a message from this guy. Mind you, I don't remember swiping on the guy. Okay. His picture was black and white. It was really incognito. I didn't know if he looked like he was trying to hide his face. It just wasn't what I would normally swipey on. You get. And so yeah, he messaged me. We matched. I don't know how we matched, but he messaged me and we started talking. Our first phone conversation, we were on the phone for 4 hours. Now, if anyone knows my husband, he is a man of very little words. Okay? Very, very few. But there was something about our spirits that were calling to each other. But let me back up. Before I met my husband, I was fantasizing about who my husband was. I was daydreaming about how he would come home. I couldn't see a face, but how he would come home and the first thing that he would do would be to grab me and to greet me. How he would talk to me gently, how he was kind, right? I would fantasize about how gentle he was. By this time, I was over, he needs to be 6'2", make 6 figures. I was over all that. And not only was I fantasizing about how my husband would treat me, I knew that whatever work that I did through the Holy Spirit to rebuild my identity, my confidence, couldn't be at risk again. I had found God and I was going to hold on to him. Do you understand? So anyway, so our first conversation was 4 hours. Um our first date was the beginning of the rest of our life. After that first date, we were together almost every day. Um he didn't get tired of me, you know? Even now, we work together, we live together, we do everything together. He doesn't get tired of me. You know, he I don't want to I don't want to spin off, but just know that my husband is a promise fulfilled. So I encourage you, especially those that are waiting on a spouse. The silence is not his absence. The silence doesn't mean that he's not listening. The silence doesn't mean he's not talking. Let's pivot. Let's pivot. Let's do a reframe. You get. No, it's not that God is quiet. God is working. God is moving. If we believe that our God knows the right time for everything, why are we stressed? It's easier said than done. I'm saying this on the other side of married, of happily, healthily married. But it was hard. It was hard. It was hard before I met him. It was hard feeling like I was not feeling, it was hard chasing God and lonely. Mm. Loneliness will drive you to do crazy things. Loneliness will drive you to do things that you wouldn't normally do. Loneliness, when linked up with impatience, fear, and desperation, is a recipe for disobedience. So, all I'm saying in this episode is to know your God and to know that He is not a cruel father and He is not watching you suffer without there being an expected end. When you feel heaven is silent, look within. I want you to remember that God will never do anything that He's already graced us to do. If He's given me the power, the know-how, the faith, the whatever to accomplish something, He's not going to reach down and do it for me. So when you feel that heaven is silent, when you feel like your prayers aren't being answered, it's time to be self-reflective. Are you chasing God or are you chasing what's in His hand? I mean, I don't want no problems, okay? I'm just I'm just sharing and offering my experiences. It's important for us to know that as we grow in faith, as we mature in faith, our faith is stretched. In the beginning of your walk, when God is winning you over, it seems like ding, ding, ding. Every time you send a prayer up, boom, you get an answer. Boom, there's breakthrough. Oh, He makes a way. But that's not how it stays. The idea um, is to train you to be a light. And again, life is the teacher. How can I testify to you that God will give you the desires of your heart if you wait on Him, if I've never waited on Him? The waiting season is process. If you feel that your prayers are not being answered, if you are in a state of desperation, I feel like that's the beginning of the self-examination. Why do I feel hopeless? Why do I feel desperate when I have a God who supplies every need? When I have a God who will see about me even if I make my bed in hell. Again, I'm not here to tell you what to do, just here to share. Don't get weary and well doing, man. And don't let instant gratification be the weapon that the enemy uses to deflate your faith. A promise made with God is a promise kept. Huh? Huh? So yeah, you know, this is why I've launched this is why Life Out Loud coaching exists. To coach, to prophetically coach people through dry seasons, through toiling seasons, through waiting seasons. God does not disappoint. The process is not pretty, but the promise, oh my goodness. Everything that I wanted in a husband, everything that I prayed about in a husband, I got outside of his height, okay? You can't have it all. Everything that I prayed about in a husband, my husband is. My sincerest prayer was, Father, I want him to love me as Christ loves the church. I want his love to cover a multitude of sin. I, I want him to know everything that I've ever done, every secret that I've ever had, where every body is buried, and to still look at me and want me. You know, God did that. Do you know God did that? So yeah, this is a quick episode. We're gonna get in and get out. Thank you for joining me for another episode of God, You Play Too Much. And be reflective, sis. Be reflective, bro. Take it easy. He is there. He don't need to show up. He's already in the midst of your situation. Will your faith, will your faith meet him there? Okay? I feel like that's all for today. I love you guys. I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. Remember to subscribe, to share, to remember to go over to Tickety Talk and follow me. Follow me on all social media platforms. There's a link in the bio that will lead you everywhere you need to go. Listen, God is doing big things and we're excited about it. I love you guys. Stay blessed, stay fresh, and remember, God plays too much. Don't take it easy. It's okay. You're going to live. You're going to be okay. You're going to make it, okay? Bye, guys.